Oxford from the inside. The good, the bad, but always the truth.
Hi, I'm Olviya. I use any pronouns, and welcome back to Oxford from the Inside. The good, the bad, but always the truth. Today we're joined by a familiar face, Clarissa. Do you want to introduce yourself, Clarissa?
Hi, I'm Clarissa. I'm a second year biochemist at Trinity College.
Fabulous stuff. In today's episode, we're going to talk about dealing with your chronic illnesses at university. And I think that's quite an important thing because it's kind of like a hidden disability that we don't talk about it very much, but there are a lot of students who deal with their own chronic illness in a lot of different places. Whereas just Clarissa, to kick things off, do you want to talk about your chronic illness a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I came to Oxford knowing that I had chronic mental illnesses, and I also knew that I had visual snow syndrome. And then whilst at Oxford, my diagnosis changed, and I now have a rare chronic migraine disorder, which I found out about this summer. But it's been a bit tough managing sort of having an illness and also trying to do my studies and socializing and everything. So I just want to make that transition easier for anyone if I can with this.
If you're comfortable with it, do you want to explain a little bit about what your chronic illness is?
Sure. So I have OCD and generalized anxiety disorder, which meant that, well, for starters, the whole process of change was really sort of transitioning from A level to university was quite terrifying for me. Firstly, I mean, for the same reasons that everyone's scared for, because you don't know what the environment will be like, and you don't know how to cope with the workload. But then also wondering if will my paranoia be triggered by the room setup, or will there be enough light levels for me not to get SAD this year? And will a shared bathroom trigger my OCD? So there was quite a few concerns I had, but I spoke to the welfare officers at Trinity, and that was really helpful. There's some great welfare officers at Trinity who helped put lots of accommodations into place before I even got here, which meant that moving in was a little bit more peaceful for me. And I also got to move in a bit earlier on the first day, which was also quite helpful for me to get my bearings.
No, and that's really good to hear. Yeah, that's really good to hear, and I'm glad that moving in's been a relatively peaceful process. When you applied to university, which I am sure must be a very, very long time ago now, considering where you're going, did you have to take any other things into consideration when you're applying to university?
So I actually visited, so I was trying to decide between Oxford and UCL because I didn't want to really move too far afield, because I know there was sort of a struggle in my mind. I want to be independent and I don't want to be tied to my parents forever. But then also I do want to be close enough that if I have any health issues, I can still be supported, because I don't want to deal with the chronic illness on my own entirely, right?
Yeah.
So it was sort of working out how personally independent did I want to be in first year. And so I looked at universities in London, and also I looked at Oxford, and I had to visit all the campuses separately because going to open days terrified me because there's too many people there. And so it was good. So I spoke to my department's accessibility officers and stuff like that. And in Oxford, the biochem department was really helpful in explaining how labs can be made more accessible and the lecture theatre set up and stuff like that in advance.
No, that's really good to hear. I've had very positive experiences in applying, and I think it's really great that universities are starting to be a little bit more forward with really explaining how they're going to make things accessible for other people.
Yeah, I think it's the case with a lot of things with chronic illnesses. You have to sort of be the one to put those things into action, though. No one had any sort of accessible open days, or they didn't advertise that I could come over and see the labs and like make sure they're all good, because I have like a tick issue, so I didn't want to if it like there are some labs that are really crowded and small and there's too many things on the bench, and I was like, I'm gonna just drop all these flasks, I'm gonna fill hydrochloric acid all over the floor, everyone's gonna die in a dissolved puddle of acid. So but you know that so they didn't advertise any of this, but just being empowered to email people and say, look, I have an illness and I still want to study well here, is sort of I'd say my advice.
No, I think it's very good. Like it's something really weird. Like I said, when you have some kind of like disability or illness, you're always hyper conscious of everything that could happen. And that for me, it's like I feel like I'm super hyper conscious of everything that could possibly go wrong in a situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm trying to like get better at not apologizing for it.
Yeah.
So I do have to be more aware of what's going to happen, and I do have to sort of insist like, okay, my room has to have a certain amount of light levels, otherwise I will not be able to function from like December to March or something. But also I don't need to apologize for needing to have these things in place. So sort of being a little bit more assertive and not like, oh, I'm sorry, I have accommodations, like please can you put them in place, like, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're so right. So like you've completed your first year at Oxford. Well done, congratulations on doing that, by the way.
Thank you very much.
How's your experience with being with college in first year in regards to having your needs met?
It was a mixed bag. It was good in some senses, but so I think things were really complicated by the fact that we were in the pandemic as well, because so my first term here was quite good, and then second term I changed medication, which really didn't suit me, and I had a bit of a little crisis moment, and college was really good in looking after me during that time, but then they asked me to be sent home
Oh no.
immediately after, which, I mean, to their credit, like it's hard to look after someone who is like always on the cusp of mental breakdown, but also it felt really isolating to be like just sent home, and I had a lot of like this sort of issues of, oh, I couldn't hack being at college for more than a week in second term, which I had to work through with the college counselor, and it was so it wasn't the best being sent home. And then also I was told I could return in 2 weeks, and then that turned into 2 months of being at home. Because they were like, oh well, now you can't come back because of COVID, and I was like, but you said I could. So yeah.
That sounds very frustrating to do. I think like
it's quite annoying.
It's quite hard because there's a pandemic going on, and like I don't know about you, but for me, like having my needs met as a deaf person, I was quite willing to forgive a lot of things, I guess, but at the same time there's a lot of frustration, because it's like I get that there's a pandemic going on, but I still am struggling with this thing, if that makes sense.
Actually, like the biggest thing that sort of was like the biggest issue for me dealing with like a chronic illness and the pandemic is sort of scheduling doctor's appointments, and like accessing the GP became so much more difficult, and I need to do that quite frequently anyway, and it's sort of, and I also felt a bit, so like lectures and stuff would get scheduled at any like time, because now all the lecturers are at home all the time, right, and they can just do a Zoom call whenever, so we'd have like a really odd timetable with large like chunks in them, it was quite difficult to say like, okay, I'm sorry for being a frequent flyer to the doctors, but I need to get another doctor's appointment, so I can't attend this and I can't attend that, and it was a bit tricky to arrange everything in that sense.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like we've talked about the college side about it, and like how the department side, how's the biochemistry department met your needs in the first year?
So they've been pretty good, because so I needed to take a week off of studies in second term, week 4. So I had emailed my senior tutor. So that was, and he was really accepting, and he was very like, yeah, your needs and your health come first, so don't worry about that. And I think he tried to spread that memo to my tutors, like departmental tutors, but they still, in my report, I got a lot of, well, she didn't give in this assignment and she didn't turn up for this exam, and I was like, yeah, but I got excused from all of that.
Missed lines.
There was like a bit of miscommunication, but it was still great that they could sort it out to some extent, which I really needed that break, honestly, because I was wearing myself out a lot.
No, that's really good to hear. At least, and it's so weird because at least they've actually made an effort to.
Yeah.
And even if it's not worked out quite perfectly in the end, the effort was there. You know what I mean? Like, you can't discredit.
Definitely, and I think so. At the end of the day, it really just, like, to them, it sort of matters what you do in like prelims and what you do in your finals. And if that means that you need to take a break mid studies to, to sort yourself out so that you can perform better, then it works out for them as well. So
yeah, it worked out for you because you smashed your prelims. So
thank you.
Absolutely smashed it. You did great.
But I'd say sort of, it was another thing of me having to ask though. So they don't check in on you like as a department, or I mean the tutors do, but only like every term. But sort of, feeling empowered to say, okay, actually things aren't going great for me at the moment and I need help, was quite important. But then, once you let them know, they're actually really helpful. So
yeah. No, I think that's good to hear. I'm just gonna. I know we already touched this on a little bit briefly, but how would you say the pandemic's kind of like had an impact on you learning at uni and being able to access uni the same that was everyone else?
I think so. At the very start of term, so like it was the second week or something. One of my housemates got COVID, and so one of the people I was in a like household bubble with got COVID, and we all had to be sort of like stuck to our rooms because one of us might have interacted with her, so like the isolation thing. But because my room had an ensuite, which is necessary for my illness, I had no reason to leave at all, so it was very isolating. So for those 2 weeks, which I understand, like they have to do that obviously to prevent the spread, but also I was feeling like I wish I could just be let outside once or something, because sort of being trapped with my own thoughts is really painful. So I was like calling my parents like all the time, being like, just tell me about the cat, how's the cat doing? I'm going crazy in here.
How is the cat doing?
The cat's doing great at the moment.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that. No, I think isolating's a very weird experience. I think it's getting better, but I don't know, it's just been a very weird time because I was also put into isolation very beginning of term, and even though I didn't have to deal with chronic illness or anything like that, so I guess I'm privileged in that sense. I don't have to worry about how to manage my chronic illness or whatever. But it was still an awful time. I'll be honest, it was still an awful time. I barely ate.
Oh,
Isolating food is terrible.
It was. I got a box that was just peas one time for dinner. Like I got like a piece of chicken and then just a whole Tupperware box of peas.
Lots of vitamin C.
Yeah. I actually remembered one of the more tricky things about being in isolation, which I went to university and I didn't take a full supply of my meds because I thought I'll just take enough for 2 weeks, and then second week I'll go to Boots and I'll get more of my meds. for the next month, because there's no point bringing a whole. And then second week I got put into isolation for 2 weeks, so that was tricky. Like I had to sort of order meds like over the internet and then get them somehow delivered to me, so there were like 3 unmedicated days that were just hell.
No.
Yeah, so that's another thing I learned, I think, in the pandemic, is just have so many supplies, just stock up so much. Like
stock up so much
on medication, or whatever else you need to manage your illness, because like it's quite unpredictable, and it was going to be tough anyway to like learn how to get medication at Boots and Corn Market, because it's quite different to what I had to do in Hounslow. So, and like the Summertown system is a bit different as well. So yeah, I don't have many solutions for that. I'm just saying it was a weird transition.
I can imagine it was. And but okay, so just to kind of like round it off, you've done a year. What would you say? What would your piece of advice be to any incoming students who are perhaps going through a similar situation, who are perhaps nervous about how to tackle university?
I think it's definitely manageable. Like I find myself sort of trapped between thinking, okay, so I have a chronic illness and I need to keep that in mind, and there's some things I won't be able to do sometimes, and then there's also the fact that I don't want to be defined by this, and I am capable of so much more as well. So it's sort of striking that balance. I had a tendency in first term to sort of overexert myself, and like I wanted to fit in with drinking and stuff, so I'd drink quite a bit, and that didn't agree with me because of my illnesses and like the medication I'm on. And so I think it's all a thing about like asserting independence and like sort of being more sure of yourself, but it's something you develop. But yeah, I think advice, reach out to people when you need it, and do not be afraid of using any and all of the services that college offers and that your department offers, and then also be prepared and know how to access the services before you need them, like have a plan in place. So I feel like if I had worked out how Summertown like medication ordering and stuff works before I actually needed to do it, it would have been a lot smoother. And you can also with your department put a like health plan in place by talking to them and saying like, oh, if I can't come to lectures, what can I do, and what do you expect me to do, and knowing all of that. And I wrote it down as well, so that I had a little protocol to follow whenever I was unable to attend like a lab. I knew exactly who I needed to email and everything. So, but asking that before, because otherwise it can be kind of anxiety inducing.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a really, really good, solid idea. Having a protocol and having a routine. That's some really good advice. And then obviously, university has a disability student advisory, the DSA, that you can reach out to, and then colleges will have wellbeing officers and disabilities reps as well. And we do have a discount and disability campaign as part of a student union at Oxford, so that you can reach out to if you feel like there is something lacking in Oxford or the student union, or just need some bit student advice or wherever. Lots of really great places to reach out to. But Clarissa, thank you so much for sharing your experiences today. It's been really good insight, and I really appreciate you coming on and being honest with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's great to talk to you, Olviya.
It's good to talk to you. To all listeners, I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, please go and follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook as at Oxford from the Inside. And until next time, have a good day, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.